I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Welcome everyone to our meeting. Thank you, President Smith and the entire Southern team for your hospitality and hosting us. I'd like to ask Secretary Helene to please take the roll.
Thank you. Chair Guay.
Present.
Regent Balducci.
Here.
Regent Bloom.
Here.
Student Regent Earlington. Absence noted, but she is expected. Regent James. Absence is noted. Regent Jappanen.
Present.
Thank you. Regent Porth.
Present.
Student Regent Sanchez.
He's in the building.
He is expected. Regent Santiago. Absence is noted. Regent Stewart.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Wright.
Here.
Regent Yang.
Here.
Our ex officios, Professor Cunningham.
Present.
Thank you. Regent ex officio, Professor Sasanker.
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Bartolomeo. Absence is noted. Commissioner Giuttani. Absence is noted. Designate David Stuber, Chief of Staff, to Commissioner O'Keefe. Absence is noted. Commissioner Russell Tucker. Absence is noted. Chief Workforce Officer Valeries. Absence is noted, but she is expected. Undersecretary Casamento.
Present.
Thank you. Our presidents, President Maduco,
Present.
Interim President Smith,
Present.
President Toro,
Here.
Interim President Singh. Absence is noted, but he is expected. President Klonowski.
Present.
Thank you. President
So we're not
Smaley.
going to send it until Monday per Commissioner
please,
Uglio's
we have
request that we don't.
audio.
Mayor Stewart, you're on.
Testing.
I muted her. Chair Guay, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to make one change to our agenda. There's no need to have an executive session of the board this month. Therefore, I'd like to call a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The amended agenda is adopted. Chancellor Chang, happy birthday. The microphone is yours.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Chair Guay. I appreciate you celebrating my 25th birthday with me. Feels really good. What also feels good is the fact that CSCU has had a really strong spring semester across the system. I'd like to just highlight some of the recent work and achievements that really shows off our students, our faculty, and our staff. First, the CSCU system recently received the Testing for Change Award from the National Association of Higher Education Systems, short acronym is NASH. This is for its leadership in improving student mobility work supported by our participation in the NASH improvement communities on transfer. So our work has been specifically focused on transfer students. For those of you not familiar with NASH, it is a smaller membership organization. It's not as big as ACE or ASCU, but it is the only member organization that is comprised only of systems of public higher education, including Cal State, CUNY, SUNY, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Texas, excuse me, to name a few, and many major multi-campus institutions, such as the University of Illinois. So to be recognized by NASH is really a big deal. It's an honor, and it shows how far we've come as a system. The work has been led by Dr. Ainsley Diamond, our Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs. There you are, Dr. Diamond, and Stephen Marcellinus in her shop, and they have been instrumental in our effort to serve more CT State students looking to transfer from CT State to one of our CSUs. So when you combine this with the new transfer policy that the board passed last year and the work we're about to launch with the $300,000 grant that we received from the Arizona State University Design Institute, This is all part of a strategic and targeted effort to increase transfer enrollment. So I mentioned Dr. Diamond and Steve Marcelinas, but several of our institutional and campus leaders have been involved. And again, they're really driving this work, something to be very proud of, and it's going to help students across the system. Also, earlier this week, many of you saw the headline and the article on Dr. Karim Ismaili, president of Eastern Connecticut State University, who shared his inspiring journey to become Eastern's 7th president. I hope you all get a chance to read it. It's a great piece. His message of resilience, kindness, and belief in every student's potential is at the heart of everything he does at Eastern. So I'm really proud to have appointed Dr. Ismaili about 1 year ago. Time flies when you're having fun, right, President Ismaili? Frankly, he's made the decision really easy last year, and I'm glad he chose to join us because he had other options. In less than a year, he has already made a tangible and remarkable impact on the ethos and the culture of Eastern. So thank you, Dr. Ismaili. We look forward to officially inaugurating Dr. Ismaili as Eastern's 7th president on April 11th. Yesterday, Chair Quay, Regent Yang, and I, with President Maduco and other institutional leaders, were there for the ribbon cutting of the new Advanced Manufacturing Technology Center at CT State Tunxis. The newly renovated facility is the second largest of CT State's 11 advanced manufacturing centers across the state. Let me repeat that. 11 advanced manufacturing centers across the state that are under the umbrella of CT State. That, again, is a big deal that has a massive impact. The building adds over 14,000 square feet of space dedicated to advanced manufacturing, machine technology programs, and customized workforce training with more than 30 pieces of state-of-the-art machinery and equipment for the training. The center is going to serve students in high school through partnerships, CT State students in multiple academic program paths, and professionals who are working but looking to reskill and upskill. So the center exposes all students to the forward-thinking educational models, curriculum, and training needed. And I want to thank Governor Lamont. I want to thank Senator Hartley, Representative Farrar. They were there to celebrate with us as well, and so many industry and community partners. So this was a really, really wonderful moment for CT State and for the system. Charter Oak continues to lead the way on AI. Thank you to President Klonowski and Provost Ferreira for the incredible work they've been doing. Charter Oak recently announced it had joined a statewide coalition of universities, leading corporations, and public sector partners to launch the Connecticut AI Alliance, a groundbreaking consortium that will advance the development, application, and impact of AI across Connecticut. So it's really important that we at CSCU have a member institution there. We appreciate Charter Oak being at the table representing us. So in all, very proud of the progress we've made in leadership, academic programs, public engagement, and student service. Couple more items to touch on. As you all know, last week, President Trump signed an executive order initiating steps to dismantle the United States Department of Education, aiming to transfer educational authority back to the states. The recent executive order commits to protecting our students' access to federal student financial aid, including Pell Grants. So we sincerely hope the administration stands by these promises. CSCU is working closely with our partners at the state and federal levels to determine and prepare for the impact of this executive order. That being said, we understand that the ground impact on our students in the classrooms, in our offices, is different, and it feels very scary and very real, especially when we have headlines now of ICE being on certain campuses and detaining graduate students and so forth. It's a really tense and hard time. So in the coming weeks, CSCU is going to be hosting 6 virtual town halls, one for each institution, with the system's legal and compliance team to provide faculty and staff with the opportunity to ask questions and receive updates directly from system office leadership. So each institution will have a chance to correspond and engage directly with legal and with compliance, because we've been putting guidance out there, and your presidents have been putting guidance out there with us but it doesn't mean that it penetrates in every corner. And we would rather say it more and more and answer all the questions rather than have questions floating out there to just let people know that we are doing everything that we can. As we continue to navigate this unprecedented environment together, we remain committed to our shared purpose and mission of creating opportunities for every student. The last topic I'm going to go through is about the CSCU reserves. There's been a lot of discussion around the amount of reserves within the CSCU system. And while the reserves are critical to maintaining financial stability, we also recognize the need for transparency in how these funds are managed. So in the spirit of that transparency, I want to be clear that our reserves have increased these past few years according to policy. When these policies were created, pre-pandemic, the world and the landscape were different. Things have changed. It's an optimal time for the board and the system to assess and make changes. Which board committees are reviewing what information on what cycle, with whom, what policies need to be changed, and how do we ensure process, procedure, and protocol are being followed. All of this can and should be addressed. A major challenge we face with calibrating reserve levels that must be considered in these conversations is the timing misalignment between when we set our operating budget for the next fiscal year and when we receive final state budget allocations. We have to make decisions as institutions and as a system months in advance, while the state funding levels and potential employee salary increases are often decided much later in the year. So again, let's be clear that since and through the pandemic, state funding for CSCU has been unpredictable. Without adequate reserves, unexpected funding shifts could force institutions into last-minute decisions that impact students, faculty, and operations. Even with the increase in institutional reserves across the system, it would have been irresponsible to aggressively spend these reserves, much less drain them. This would have gone against industry-recognized best practice recommendation and also could have put us in potential jeopardy with our accreditor. While there are some restrictions on the use of reserves based on board policy, we will continue to evaluate policies to ensure they align with actual needs. A recommendation will be put forth to the board to establish a working group to examine fund balance guidelines and make recommendations to optimize resource allocation across the system. And it is also important to recognize that the majority of reserves remain at the institutional level, not the system office. It is critical that our institutional presidents and their leadership teams are actively involved in this process to make certain that financial planning and resource allocation correspond with institutional priorities, sustainability goals, and student success initiatives. Their leading voices, the voices of our presidents in this effort, will help facilitate informed decision-making that balances immediate financial needs with long-term institutional stability. Additionally, the system office is committed to releasing its available reserves back to the institutions where they can be strategically deployed to support institutional priorities and student success. Finally, I believe we have to be mindful of the potential domino effect of federal activities and decisions. If federal funds to the state of Connecticut were to be reduced and subsequently funding for CSCU were to be even further and drastically reduced, we would need every dollar of our reserves to remain solvent, to continue supporting our students, faculty, and staff through a crisis period. I would like to say this is far-fetched, but it is not. Our priority is to maintain both financial stability and institutional flexibility, ensuring that reserves serve their intended purpose, supporting our colleges and universities while safeguarding against financial calamity. And as I said, after further assessment and review with our institutional presidents, we will have recommendations for the board as such determinations are based on the board's final decisions. So good luck to all of our students, faculty, staff, administrators, as we head into the final weeks of the semester. Thank you, Chair Gray.
Thank you, Chancellor, and the board looks forward to weighing in and giving direction on our reserves in the following meetings coming up. While we're at Southern, I want to acknowledge the great achievement of the of the Carnegie Institution declaring Southern a Research 2 institution. This is a really, really big deal. There are only 3 research designated universities in Connecticut: Yale, UConn, and now Southern. Southern's an R2 instead of an R1, and the only difference is scale. So our expectation, Dr. Smith, is that we will leverage further scale, but there's only 139 research institutions in the United States, and we're really proud that one of ours in our family, the Southern Connecticut State College University, is one of them. Southern was also identified as a top Fulbright scholar producing institution for 24 and 25. There's only 27 other universities in this classification, only one other in Connecticut, which is Trinity. So congratulations. You know, with success, we expect more. So don't rest too much. We have success throughout the system, but I really wanted to call out, while we have colleagues here from Southern, faculty, teachers, students, it's really a proud moment for all of us. So well done. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet with the local SWOF executive board on the central campus. I want to thank Lisa Bigelow for inviting me to this meeting, and to all the participants in the meeting. Your feedback was very much appreciated, and your perspectives are important. As I told you yesterday, the wisdom is closest to the point of impact, and it's nice to hear where the impact is made, what those perspectives are. So I'll be following up on those key items in that meeting. And we'll talk about some of those during the meeting today. A few housekeeping issues to report on. On the audit committee, a change in membership. Regent Ari Santiago will be stepping down from this responsibility, but will continue his assignment on the finance committee. We will have an additional special Board of Regents meeting in late April. This will be scheduled after this meeting, maybe at the beginning of next week for the end of April. And we will change the May 22nd board meeting so that the regents and institutions can attend many of the commencements that are scheduled around or on that date. We'll keep you posted on the change of the May 22nd date. We have 3 information items at the top of our agenda today: the spring 2025 enrollment and retention report. Second, a food insecurity update. And the third is the Charter Oak Book Bundle presentation. I'd first like to ask Dr. Blanchard to give us an update on the spring 2025 enrollment and retention. I understand that you've already presented this information at the Academic and Student Affairs Committee, but I think it's an important enough moment to share with everybody. Dr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It has been a good spring. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Regents. It has been a good spring in terms of our enrollment. We've seen increases across the entire system amounting to a 6.2% increase in student enrollments. We're very pleased with this trend, and it speaks to the good work being done by all of our institutions in terms of recruiting and sustaining their students. Now, there has been some discussion about the impact of dual and concurrent enrollment students, high school students essentially, taking college courses on that 6.2%. Yes, we have had very strong increases this semester in dual and concurrent enrollments, but if you remove the dual and concurrent enrollments from the undergraduate enrollment numbers, you will still see increases in undergraduate enrollments amounting to about 1.8% to 4.8%. That latter number was Western Connecticut State Universities, for which I congratulate them. So in general, we saw, the system in the spring is looking at about 63,906 credit-bearing students. 27,524 of those students are at our universities. 34,399 of those students are at CT State community colleges, and 1,983 at Charter Oak State College. In terms of our Graduate enrollments. Sorry, my computer went off. Let me just continue. So in terms of our graduate enrollments at our universities, our graduate students amounted to 4,531 students. So that was an increase at each of our universities. So we're very pleased to see that. In terms of access, we also track access metrics in terms of first year, first year students, in terms of first generation students, as well as their ethnicity. In terms of the students who are attending our colleges for the first time, we have 11,992 students across the system. 3,989 of those first-time students are at our universities. 7,977 of those first-time students are at CT State Community College, and Charter Oak has 26 new first-time students. Charter Oak, of course, is focused on, their population is mainly focused on adults, but it's encouraging to see them serve first-time college students as well. In terms of first-generation undergraduates, across the system, we have 29% of our students are first-generation students, meaning the first time in their families they've gone to college. That's almost a third. At CT State, it is a third. 33% of CT State students are first-generation students. 26% of our university students are first-generation students. And that ranges from 24% at Western to 28% here at the fine university called Southern Connecticut State University. In terms of ethnicity, across the system, 54% of our students are non-white, based on traditional ethnic metrics. So we're very pleased that we're serving this population in Connecticut because this is the workforce of Connecticut. In terms of those students at CT State who receive the Handley and PACT eligibility, 30% of CT State students take advantage of the PACT program. In terms of Pell Awards are awards from the federal government, and this speaks to the criticality of our preparedness for adverse federal action. 42% of our students system-wide receive Pell grants to support their education. At our universities, that amounts to 39%. At CT State Community College, that amounts to 44%. And at Charter Oak State College, that amounts to 43%. So it should be clear with these metrics, the students that we are serving and the value that we bring to Connecticut in terms of developing its workforce. And finally, in terms of the completion metrics, we measure completion in terms of their retention rate, transfer rate from the community college to the universities, and their graduation rate, as well as measuring completions in the key strategic programs identified by this board in conjunction with state leadership. In terms of the retention rate, our universities are producing 77% retention rates, and that ranges from 70 at Western to 84% retention rates at Eastern. At Connecticut State University, we're seeing 65% retention rates, and those numbers are pretty even across their campuses. And we do not measure such rates at Charter Oak for various reasons. In terms of the transfer rates, this is the rate at which Connecticut State students attend our CSUs, our universities. They amount to 14% across the 12 campuses of CT State. They vary quite a bit from, say, 9% at a few of the campuses to a high of 19% at Manchester, at the Manchester campus. But this is an initiative that is of high priority of the board, and we're continuing to work under the leadership of Dr. Diamond to enhance our coordination across our institutions in terms of the transfer rate. Yes, please.
And this may be a question for Dr. Diamond, but I'm just wondering, how do these current numbers, the percentages, compare to the rest of the universe? Is that Whether it's comparisons to state universities, maybe.
Yes, and we're in the process right now. I mean, much of the transfer work is based on data and these data. And as our system has come together, that's probably the cornerstone of what we're looking at. So I think right now, we have started those data collections from the point of, we have historical information of which will be readily available for everyone. Steve Marcellinus and I are really looking forward to getting on the agenda to give the board a one-year update from when the policy was passed. And a large part of that presentation will be based on where we were and where we are and where we're looking to go. So in this meeting right now, do I have numbers ready to share publicly? No, I don't, but that's what we're in the process of putting together.
And if some of that information, when you do present, when you do present that information, if you could show comparisons to other state.
Of course. Yeah.
Universities.
I would like to comment on that because this came up in my meeting with the SWOF executive board yesterday. And they were very good sharing their feedback and perspectives on it. I think Dr. Diamond and team have done a great job putting the policy in place, but I think we have an opportunity to do a much better job. I think we're capable of delivering much better numbers over time and creating a much better process for our students. I think we've said this is an issue and an opportunity, but I'm not satisfied where we're at. I don't know what the numbers are, and I don't need to see the numbers. I've met with the provost at UConn and discussed. They get a lot of our students too, from CT State. But I think we can do a better job, and I think we need to commit ourselves to really helping our students in a much more uniform process. So I think we've done a lot of things right to date, but I think we have to kick it up a level right now. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to complete the report on completions, the graduation rates for our institutions include a 50% graduation rate for the universities, and that's a pretty consistent number across the universities, with Eastern leading the way at 58%. And with regard to graduation rates, three-year graduation rates at the community colleges, we're looking at an 18% rate, with Manchester, Northwestern, with Quinebaug Valley and Ashton and Tuck leading the way in terms of 28% rates for Quinebaug Valley and a 39% graduation rate for Ashton and Tuck. Graduation rate measures for community college students are a little tricky, and I know there's some conversations about using different frameworks that more accurately reflect the success of community college students who are mostly part-time and come and go for different reasons. Finally, with regard to our completions, now these are completions from the last academic year, 23-24 academic year. In terms of our business graduates, we produced 2,225 business graduates, 1,140 of those from the universities, 107 from Charter Oak, 978 business graduates from CT State. In terms of other strategic fields of education, we are strong in producing education professionals across the system. We graduated 1,209 education professionals. 43 of those degrees were earned at Charter Oak, and 233 of those education degrees were earned at CT State. Engineering and technology is another strategic field that we're growing at. Across the system, we graduated 641 graduates with engineering degrees. At our universities, they amounted to 116, almost all of whom graduated from Central Connecticut State University. 129 of those graduates earned their engineering degree from Charter Oak, and 1,092 of our CT State graduates earned engineering technology degrees. And finally, with regard to healthcare, our system graduated 2,017 graduates in the field of healthcare. 796 of those graduates were from our universities, 129 of those healthcare graduates received their degree from Charter Oak, and 1,092 of those healthcare awards were for CT State graduates. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, CFO Blanchard.
Thank you, Chair Quay. First, thank you for the report. I think it's always important to have as much data as possible that's objective and agnostic. And for those of you who, like myself, who have some trouble following a copious amount of numbers, these slides, this information is in the board materials, right? So if you look at the agenda for the meeting, they are there, they are public, and so on and so forth. So on the one hand, you've all heard me say publicly and privately, our faculty and staff and administrators perform magic every day. We create opportunities for students. We do things that are unseen and unheard that help people and help them in their lives for the long term. And I will go to the grave believing in that in public higher education and for CSCU. But I would be remiss if I did not point out that at the end of the day, when we look at our year-to-year retention rates and we look at our 6-year graduation rates, they are stuck. They are stuck. Our 6-year graduation rate is at 50%. Our year-to-year, first year to second year retention rates are basically the same as they were, a little bit up and down, a point here, a point there, over at least the past 5 years. So I'm going to jump off the soapbox in a second, but I would feel badly if I didn't say this publicly because it's how I feel privately. If we are not committed to making those numbers move in a significant way and be better, if we are satisfied with 50 out of 100 students not making it to the graduation stage after 6 years, we got a problem. And that's not a system problem. That's not a president problem. That's not a board problem. That's an everyone in public higher education, everyone at CSCU problem. If we are committed to what we say we're committed to, we got to do better. That is what I would like to add to what Regent Way was saying, Chair Way was saying about not being satisfied. Let's look at the numbers. Let's understand what we can do better. We have a lot of challenges, but there's a lot in our control that we can improve. And I hope that we can all recommit to that and do it in an objective and agnostic and very sober way. Because if we don't do that, we're failing our students.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you. Thanks again, Dr. Blanchard. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Mara and Dr. O'Day Stevens on the update on food insecurity.
Thank you, Chair Gway. I feel like I have to do full disclosure. I'm a JD, not a doctor. So don't hold that against me, but
I think that
they never were-
I think the board can award you one, but we're not doing that today.
Thank you for the opportunity. For those of you I haven't had a chance to meet, I oversee system-wide initiatives and sponsored programs at the system level. Pam's pointing to the microphone. I'll try. And so part of my portfolio includes ARPA-funded initiatives, federal-funded initiatives. I have a diverse amount of areas, all of which fall squarely under those ACT pillars that we talk so much about. Everything from tuition assistance and faculty, in social work and nursing, to helping to strengthen our early childhood lab schools, to tracking 2,500 high school seniors in Waterbury, East Hartford, and Manchester as they prepare to enter college next year with us. So I have a diverse portfolio, but I spend a significant amount of time on the non-academic barriers to our student success. So I'm delighted to follow enrollment. I'm delighted to follow Chancellor Chang's remarks about retention, because these back to basics are the things that are going to help our students to stay with us and complete. Of course, we need to do it financially. We need to do it because we're not meeting the workforce needs of our state, but we really need to do it because this is the way we fulfill the promise that we make to our students every day. So I don't need to be on a soapbox. Everyone else has done that. But I'm here to give you an update on how we got to where we're at with food insecurity. And Dr. a real doctor, O'Day Stevens, will give you the update about where we're going from here. So in 2019, we received a grant from the Lumina Foundation, and at the time, we did an assessment of the key non-academic barriers to student success at the then separate 12 community colleges. We focused, not surprisingly, on food, housing, childcare, transportation, and access to mental health. This was pre-pandemic. What we found isn't going to surprise anybody at all. What we found was that there was a lot of good work going on at the colleges individually. Some weren't doing anything in some areas. Some had these things embedded in the infrastructure and culture of their college. Some were dependent on a person, and if she left, it went with her. And so what we decided to do was to focus on those 5 areas. And I'm happy to give updates on the other areas that we've been working on, especially mental health, that I know Dr. O'Day Stevens will touch upon. Since 2022, we have been implementing across our system the JED campus program for suicide prevention and wellness across our sites. It's a 4-year evidence-based program that includes student surveys. It includes a self-assessment, site visits from JED, the development of a strategic plan. And so we are almost at the end of that cycle and expect to have data to share in the fall. But anytime we're talking about barriers to student success, you have to say mental health. With regard to food, we began to look at each of our then separate institutions to take a look at what they were doing. And I'm happy to say within a few years, pandemic notwithstanding, they all have pantries on their campuses and their satellites. And not only do they have those, but they're doing innovative things to address the needs of students. So you can do an online order at Central. You can get grab and go snacks at a lot of places. So they're not just stocking shelves there. These pantries are places where students can come together, reduce the stigma around food insecurity, find community, find engagement. This is also a mental health strategy. They're all connected. So we have come a long way. In 2022, we received our first donation from Stop and Shop, and that was kind of a game changer for us. Many of our institutions, as the Chancellor went around, actually had support from Stop and Shop, but many did not. So in that year, we received $100,000 from them, and it was allocated across our institutions based on their data. The next year, we got $133,000 from them. And this past year, we got $156,500. They are interested in giving to a system. They're a statewide company, and they're interested in making a statewide impact. So that has been, for many of our pantries, a real base of finance for them to be able to stock those shelves. What I want to do is say the pantries are great. The pantries are great. But we have to take a look at what we're doing as a system to really make a difference in the lives of students. So pantries meet an immediate need, gets them connected, and through community partnerships, we're able to give them even more. But SNAP employment and training is a way to move our students out of needing food pantries into getting a livable wage and being able to move forward. And so a thank you to Regent Casamento, but we have also been beefing up the information that we're giving our students as they go not just to the pantries. Some of our campuses send SNAP information out to every registered student. We are doing a better job of getting the word out. I also have connected with the Connecticut Association for Community Action. DSS has a contract with them to provide community outreach. There are 9 community action agencies around the state. They are interested in partnering with us so that we do that outreach at each one of our campuses that are interested. And so I think we're going to be able to get the word out, not just about SNAP eligibility, but if you're eligible for SNAP, you're eligible for these SNAP ENT programs that we offer through our RCT state campuses, which gives you tuition and fees for free, and also makes you eligible for participant expenses, which might include the steel-toed boots you need, might include a uniform that you need for an internship, so we can help students get through. I mentioned community partnerships. Nothing systemic is handled just with money. And so we have developed a substantial partnership with United Way. We need to invest, if we're community colleges and community-based universities, we need to invest in the services that are already out there that our students will be able to access after they graduate and leave us. So we have been doing 211 training. I happened to see my counterpart last week from 211. They've trained more than 1,500 people at no cost to us across the state in how to use 211. If you haven't used it lately, it's not your grandmother's 211. You can punch in your zip code. You can find out where to get a hot meal tonight, where there's a bed. You can talk to a trained counselor. And so we really, really are leaning in heavily in that partnership as an ongoing resource for our students. Food share, of course, is another. When we first convened what was then the Deans of Student Affairs Council, there were a couple of our campuses that were using food share. Now everybody is a partner with food share, except for one of our campuses, which we're going to work on that. But along with getting food, fresh food, and resources for the students, you also become part of a network that's really helpful. So if you ask Nantuck how they got their freezer, they're going to tell you somebody from Food Share called them. And so being part of that network is so much more, not that we don't like lettuce and tomatoes, that's important for the immediate need, but it's so much more than that for the sustainability of the pantry on the campus. It's also a way to connect with local social services in the town that you live in. I will end just by saying that there is a law 22-101 that requires us to do biennial surveys. We were doing them anyway. Our campuses do a fabulous job, and I see Tracy and Jules are in the audience. Randall Ward from Capital is there in name. There are a lot of folks who are running these pantries across the state that make it their business to find out what students need, and they make it their business to get it to them. If they need clothes, there's Dress for Success that's been added to these. They really do a great job. But Section 22-101 is going to make sure that we do biennial surveys and that we make sure we're documenting what our students need. I speak quickly, but I could go on. So I'll stop and I'll turn it over to Dr. O'Day Stevens.
Good morning, everyone. Leslie and I joke, she's the ghost of Christmas past and I'm the ghost for the future. So I'm going to tell you what's coming next. So I'll be doing the next reports for PA 22-101. I wanted to let you know that the Student Success Council launched in December, and that's a team across the system of our vice presidents for student affairs, as well as many of our student affairs professionals across the system. And we've been meeting and starting these dialogues as far as the resources available to students and some of the student success challenges that students have been facing across the system. One of the things that we started talking about was the communication patterns of resources to students across the system and how have they been receiving those resources, where do they learn about the resources on their campuses, and we are going to continue to take a deeper dive to find out the different resources that students receive and where do they receive those resources. We have a summit planned in May 15th, where we're all going to be getting together in person to do a deeper dive. Students on SAC have also met several times. Regent Sanchez and Regent Earlington and I have met with the SGAs across the system. Students have expressed the different ways that they receive information. We're going to lean on our student governments to let us know how students receive information about resources, the best channels. Students use Discord channels, they use social media, they use Instagram, they use their Blackboard shells, syllabi. There's different ways to get in touch with students that we may not be thinking of. And we have to do a better job of getting that information to them about our resources. But we have to stop going in the ways that we think students receive resources and work in ways that they receive information about those resources. So we're going to game plan with them and our students in giving them information of how to get those resources. Possible outreach efforts are going to be discussed, and we're going to kind of come up with a communication plan, not just about food, but other resources that students are using and or low resources that are not being used on our campuses. Our student regents are also working on a survey for students that is going to be launched. And Susan, our regent Sanchez could talk a little bit more about that. I don't know if you want to share anything about that. Luis, I think that's important to share with the regents about that survey that is being discussed, and we're in the initial stages of it, but students have talked about some of the details with that. And I think the regents would really benefit from hearing about that survey.
Yeah, just to briefly mention about the survey, thank you. Yeah, we've been meeting a lot with students. The whole emphasis with the student advisory committee this year has been to really create a foundation where like student voices are being heard, right? I believe the feedback loop was somewhat undermined after COVID, right? Communication from the campuses to the student leaders, to the student advisory committee, and then to the board. It was very much lacking due to, the kind of event that happened with COVID, right? So that's something that we've been working very hard on, developing those feedback loops to make sure that the board receives like tangible and updated information from the students and what the students really need, right? A couple of the concerns the students and discussions that we've been having with students regarding the survey, a big emphasis has been a lot on the state of the art on the IT infrastructure, right? I believe that currently the IT infrastructure is not even to have access to IT infrastructure is not even a luxury, is rather a necessity for a lot of students to just remain competitive in the current job market. Students need to have access to AI, good access to Wi-Fi and internet, right? You would think that students would having the access to those resources would allow students to remain more competitive, and as well as a way for students to find the opportunities available, right? I think having more partnerships with companies as well, to see where those internships are at, to see where they can find those employments after they graduate, whether it's from community college or state university, right? One thing I've noticed is with a lot of students just talking, they're struggling to find those jobs, right? And I think potentially introducing a way to streamline that process of like finding that information and working with companies to provide the students the internships and the skills that they need. So after they graduate, they're able to find for full employment. And like Leslie said, I believe there's plenty of services already out there, right? There's a lot of nonprofits working with this. A lot of the issues that a lot of students are facing, right? But a huge part of the issue is like getting the information to the students, right? It's like, how do we get the information to the students? So that's part of the emphasis with the survey, right? Gathering information. So that way we gather the information for what students are really needing and delaying that information and making recommendations to the board. So that's kind of being the emphasis with the student advisory committee this year, fixing that feedback loop and delaying a more streamlined process of like delaying information to the board so they're able to make decisions based upon what the students actually need, right? Things change rapidly currently. From a year or two, things are drastically different on what students might need, right? So I think having that in the back of our heads is going to be important. That's really what I have about the survey. Next meeting, I can talk a little bit more about it.
Sure.
And really introduce it, but we have developed the questions and it's just a matter of making sure that we're following the right standards to make sure that we get tangible data.
Thank you, Luis. The ASA committee, I can go into that right now, right, Ira? I don't know if you want to speak first about ASA's previous meeting and what we discussed.
About
ASA and the previous meeting, we discussed various resources at ASA and got into discussing student mental health was a topic that came up specifically at ASA over the past meeting. And there's a lot of factors impacting student success on our campuses. And we want to be intentional and focus on specific arenas that will have the most impact and being identified as critical. And nationally and regionally, mental health has been identified for students. The American College Health Survey that was done in 2023 identified that 79% of students surveyed, they were moderately or highly stressed on our college campuses. 36% reported being diagnosed with anxiety, and over 28% reported being diagnosed with depression. These are showing up in many of our accessibility offices with our accommodations on our campuses. One of our top accommodations on our campuses is focused on mental health with either anxiety or depression in all of our campus locations. This is impacting our campuses both inside and outside our classrooms. In 2024, the American Counseling Association surveyed over 800 campuses, and these are the reasons why students are struggling. And I thought it would be important to just kind of outline what the struggles are that are being identified. Students need to balance personal and economic and family responsibilities, and we also hear this at our SAC meetings every month. Pressures of doing schoolwork, increase in social media, increase in loneliness, current economic events, and I think that's been ramped up over the past year, decrease in coping skills, and a decrease in socialization skills post-pandemic. I think our campuses have become transactional in some ways, and students and staff and faculty report a lack of true authentic engagement. What is next? We need to identify how do we rebuild a culture of care and a sense of belonging on all our campuses. We have to help our students, staff, and faculty grow in confidence and build resilience to persist and seek support in community when we're struggling. We need to create a culture of care that trains all of our staff, faculty, and our students, and not just our mental health counselors on the campus. While there are experts, everyone needs to know what our resources are and our supports and be referral agents for one another. Our Student Success Council that was launched is having our planning summit, as I said, in May to discuss all of these issues. We need to identify how we can begin to properly create a plan that outlines how CSCU can build cultures of care on each and every one of our campuses. Coupled with our SAC survey and feedback from our students, I think these results will have a robust roadmap to help build a culture of care for our system. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie and Tamara.
Can I ask something?
Yep.
Again, I will try to be as diplomatic as possible, but I am extremely upset. I am extremely upset because I think this report has been very disrespectful to the leaders of the institutions. This is the first we hear about this. Nobody have told us that this was coming. Nobody talked to the President's Council about any of this. And every institution is being painted as we don't know what we are doing in terms of student success. What we are doing at the campus level has not been considered. And I wonder what NECHI, our accreditation agency, will say about something like this that is coming from the system without considering what is going on at the campus level. If this is going to be the role of the system, then we have to redefine the roles of the campuses and the leaders at the campus level. That's all I have to say. As chair of the President's Council, I think it's my responsibility to inform the board of the sentiment of the President's Council.
Thank you. We'd put food insecurity as the board had asked in a previous meeting to get an update, Dr. Toro. I think your comments are fair. We wanted to understand the nature of the issue, how the issue was.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt
But
you.
food insecurity was on the agenda, right?
Yes, food insecurity is one thing. What we heard about the Student Success Council was a complete surprise. I know about food insecurity because we collaborate with Leslie quite a bit. And I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with what was said about student success and how the institutions were painted.
I think the institutions are doing a lot of work with students. I think there are some campuses where students are not finding those resources in a succinct way. And I think students that have expressed that on our SAC meetings, and we want to better that for students on our various campuses and help them find those roadmaps on some of the campuses. I don't think we're trying to overstep what the campuses are currently doing. I think we're trying to better give guidance to students and communicate in the ways that they see those resources on our campuses. That's all the Student Success Council discussed. I think some students don't know about food pantries on their campuses, some of the campuses. Some students go to their campuses and then they leave their campuses and don't know some of these resources are available. And I think we could do a better job for some of the students that don't know about those resources. And our students have expressed that on our SAC meetings. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're not trying to do a whole new mental health plan. There are agents on each of our campuses that are doing wonderful work. It wasn't to redo mental health or to do anything different on our campuses.
Yeah, if I may, and thank you, Chair Guay, for giving me a second. I'll try to be brief. You know, I think I'm gonna peel the lens back for a second, pull the lens back for a second, right? We've been trying to evolve as a system that is better coordinated since I got here, which is almost 4 years now, right? And I've been trying to frame a lot of this work as part of a movement and not necessarily as particular moments, right? There's a continuum to progress, and we have to also recognize that where we start or where we think we start is not always necessarily the starting line, right? And presidents like President Toro and President Klonowski and others who have been in the system longer than I and certain regents on the board can speak to the fact that, you know, there has been admittedly a level of, you know, disjointedness at times in trying to synergize particular efforts, right? So one of the things I'll say is that as we continue to evolve in this track, in this spirit, everyone has the same intentions, which is to help students, right? Whether that is coming out of my office or any of the system officers that report directly to me or the institutional presidents, we're all here to help the students. But we're also going to see different perspectives of this. And at certain points, we're going to be using different instruments or different tools as a part of that investigation. And so I don't view the work that has happened. First, I appreciate President Toro and her honesty and her passion, because I know that every institutional leader and your teams and your faculty and staff on the campus do an incredible amount of work to make sure that things happen for our students. And our system officers are doing the same, again, from different angles, different perspectives, right? So I think the goal here is to synergize. Can we do a better job of recognizing or understanding what's on the ground with our institutions? Absolutely. Can we do a better job of communicating the what, the how, the why, and when? Absolutely. Okay, but I just want to make sure that at least you hear from me that there is no nefarious intent. There is no you know, inclination to try to supersede or micromanage or tell the institutions what to do. Our job should be policy, procedure, protocol, accountability, scalability, right? And so when we do a level of investigatory work and bring together this data, the goal would be to utilize that to help the institutional leaders, but then of course to help the board make certain decisions in that vein of policy, procedure, protocol, accountability, and scalability. So, you know, we're all on the same team, folks, right? And we're trying to help the students together. And so we're going to have these moments. And, you know, when I talk to system leaders across the country, there is always a natural tension between what happens at the institutions, what happens with our system offices. But, you know, I think we get a lot more done together than we do separately. Thank you, Chair Boyd.
I would like to add something, Mr. Chairman.
A Regent Bloom.
These
You
issues
got to
with
move the microphone close.
these questions were discussed at the March ASA meeting, which I'm going to report about shortly. All of the provosts are present at the ASA meetings. So none of this is a secret from the campuses. And we want the provosts present because they're a significant contributor to this.
Thank you, Regent Bloom. Just to be real clear, go ahead, Leslie.
I was just going to say, I think I speak for the entire executive team. We work for the institutions. I don't come to your campus, I will say, without you wanting me to be there. I give you the option to sort of let me go when you don't need me anymore. But I do want to say that Kelly Bird Danzo and Mike Russo, for example, at your institution at Central, have been doing a fabulous job implementing the JED campus framework since 22 or 23. That is the work that's being done on all of your campuses, by the way, for JED, that's going to form the foundation for any work that you're going to want to do in mental health. I will make an extra effort to make sure that I go through the President's Council on everything and that we do so. But we want to be clear at System Office. We don't exist without the campuses. And if we did exist, it wouldn't be very fun without you. So we understand that we really need to align with your priorities. I appreciate the remark, though, and that you said it, and we will make sure that anything related to our work goes through the President's Council from this point forward.
And I want to be real clear, because I initiated this conversation on behalf of the board to ask for a food and security update. Full stop. We didn't put mental health on the table. There may be some correlations. There may be some other things that tie together, but this is a food and security update, and we should follow the process that we have in place with committees, with collaboration with the institution. So it's a good call out, but we need to do a few things well, and I think we need to get food insecurity understood, resourced, and managed. If there's an opportunity to do it better, the board wants to stand behind that and support it. I would like to next hear from President Klonowski and Provost David Ferrer with an update on the Charter Oak Book Bundle project.
Good morning. About a year ago, there was a debate at the board about whether we should do this book bundle approach where students could get their books on time for a very low price per book. And it was decided by the board that Charter Oak would run a pilot to see how this played out. We did as you directed. We ran this in the fall. We're running it now in the spring. And as you requested, we did a survey of our students, and Provost Ferreira is going to report on that data now. Dave?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Pam, I did email you the presentation, but if not, I can bring it up over here. Is there a preference of which way you would like to go?
You can stream your presentation. I'm going to make you a presenter right now.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'm on the dual screen, so sometimes it doesn't come out perfect, but we'll make this work. And I will, I promise to be brief. Actually, I'm calling it a briefing instead of a presentation today, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of these on the agenda here.
You should be good to share.
Okay. Share, and I will go to, all right, I'll just go to screen 2. You should be able to bring this on up over here for right now. And so Pam, are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, we are, and we will be showing that on the YouTube screen as well.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. And so what we're going to do today, and then obviously love to put in any type of questions. We call it inclusive access, but over at Charter Oak, we called it the book bundle program, because sometimes we want to use language that students would understand. And obviously that's the most important piece when you are talking about an initiative. And so we launched it in fall 2024 per the board's directive. We wanted to report back on the communications and opt-out process, that the process for also soliciting feedback from students. And then also I want to present to you, the challenges that we did have, and then improvements we are looking to make, or actually have already started to make over in spring of 25, and then talk about the next steps. Because, to put into context, anytime you do something brand new that is impacted 100% of students, right? Not everything is going to work 100% perfectly, and there are always lessons learned. We want to highlight those as well. Okay. So first is, talk about the communications and opt-out process. So, we did actually have a plan multifaceted. We talked about it over at new student orientation, as far as open house events for prospective students. Also, whenever students did register for the semester, we actually had an automated email and it did land them over to our book bundle page. And I'll be happy to share it over that site with you. And in that page, which we actually keep live and updated, and we've iterated on based upon feedback. We talked to them about, what is the opt-out process, a link to the form to opt out, also about, some kind of general guidelines of, should I opt out, should I not opt out? Obviously trying to give as much information as possible to the student, while letting the student know that ultimately it is their decision to make. And then also, other questions such as, if I want to opt out of one class but not the other, can I do that? Or my class is open educational resource. Can I opt out? Should I opt out? Will I be charged? So those things are all over in the FAQs page with our book bundle program that we really directed the students to in the communications flow. And then we also, emailed about the course materials process in spring of 25, because that was a lesson learned, as well, about, when do I know if I'm going to have a print textbook as opposed to an electronic textbook. So, and then also just to let you know, the opt-out rate over in fall was 8.24%. So that was actually, very low. I believe when UConn launched their program, I think it was probably closer to the 50-50 mark. So a very low opt-out rate for the students during the first semester. And obviously, as we mentioned, we are also redoing this process for spring of 25. And so I'll come back to you as well in the summer and report back on where we were with the spring, and so we can have a comparative analysis. We also surveyed the students, and really we covered things such as, about awareness and convenience, their perceived cost savings. Did they like this program? Do they want to continue into this program or not? What were the perceived benefits that they received, and also the challenges that they perceived, because it was really important to gather this student voice, because, while maybe staff over here had some perceived benefits and challenges, right, that might be different than the student one. And ultimately, we want to hear from the student, because they're our most important, component of this process. We gave opportunities for both qualitative feedback, where they can write it down, and we analyze that data, and we also had quantitative feedback on Likert scales as well. And I believe make sure that you have the report from fall of 2024. I believe it was emailed last month, and it got pushed over to this month. The response rate was a little bit low, 5.8%. Obviously, during the end of the semester, or the end of each term, they're also getting surveyed out of many different ways about the courses and things like that. So we're going to try to continue to look at ways in which we can boost up that response rate as well. And as I mentioned, we're going to do this same survey again in spring of 25, so we can actually have not only more better cumulative data, but also the fall 24 data is really considered our benchmark data. Because again, when the first time you run it, and you're going to probably have the most amount of challenges the first time, we should anticipate that the numbers that we see are actually the worst numbers we should see. We should get better as we iterate over time. And when it came to awareness and convenience, about 2/3 of the students felt adequately informed about the program. They were positive about finding the process of receiving the materials very convenient. They were overall aware of the opt-out option, but there were still a number that felt uninformed, and that's a lesson learned that we continue to drill down into. That's why we did maybe some of that extra information over in spring of 25. 53% found the opt-out process convenient, but there were some that reported some of the challenges, and those are the things that we started to analyze that qualitative piece as well, that I'll kind of detail it when it comes to the challenges component there. In anticipation of cost and participation, they do believe, overall, the majority did believe that they actually saved money in this program. We do have some initial data that I'll present about what were some of the benefits of it. The majority would actually recommend this program overall, and also intend to continue. There's some that were unsure. But we then should see maybe the opt-out process maybe tick up a little bit, because you see there 23% were unlikely to participate again. So we should start to try to, again, benchmark the perceived not likely to participate again and opt-out process go forward, and see if those numbers do align. As far as the benefits, and this is where we gathered a lot of qualitative data from the students, they really love that the materials were automatically loaded into Blackboard. That, again, keep in mind that we're in the era of DoorDash and Grubhub. They like them to have things that show up at their door. And so this was the number one area of a benefit that the students perceived. There was a cost saving of 27% compared to prior bookstore agreement. So, students, perceive some cost savings, and here's the number that we actually could say compared to our book saving agreement. And also with the benefits, the students actually let us know they really appreciated actually accessing digital materials immediately within the Blackboard, but then also the searchability and audio features. Because one of the areas, and this is a period where we were a little bit surprised of how much they appreciated the digital components, because we always said at Charter Oak, well, average age of our student is 36, right? That means we were maybe perceiving that many more of our students were going to really want physical textbooks. Well, I think if we roll it back and say, well, 36 is actually firmly millennial. The fastest growing student segment over at Charter Oak is actually Gen Z. And so more and more of our students are finding the digital piece as a benefit, because there are things you can do in the digital feature that you can't do with a physical textbook. For example, you can control F and search exactly what you're trying to look for. You can't do that with a physical textbook. You can search for the highlighted areas that you did previously. So that was a surprise of ours, that a growing number of our students are really appreciating having that digital option, and they're finding that more convenient as they go through their courses. All right. And so with the challenges, the physical textbooks, there are still some students that did want to have and prefer printed materials. It is a continuing to be more and more of a minority, but we still want to make sure that we take into account, are there ways in which we can do some improvements in the future of offering maybe a choice of physical versus digital, so we can satisfy both. But there still are it's around a quarter of the students, they were saying, hey, I want maybe some printed textbooks. Again, first time you run something through, there were some delayed access areas. While let's say that we were able to work through all of the glitches that we did have with broken links and things of that nature by day 3 of the first week, but there were some of those areas there, and that was a challenge because we did not get access to do some of the quality assurance checks the 2 weeks in advance as we were intended to, and we worked through that component with Barnes and Noble. And then also the opt-out, again, we always want to take a look at, are there ways in which we can improve the communications process for students to let them know about opting out. So I'm happy to report that actually like 90-something% of the technical issues we did experience over in the fall semester, we did not experience in the spring semester. So we were able to take those lessons learned and apply it, and we had the amount of any type of digital access issues or things of that nature was down in the very small single-digit numbers that we did have to get through. Again, not 100% fixed, but one of the things we want to also make sure that when we identify these challenges is we have to bucket these challenges. Were these challenges because of with the bookstore or the publisher, or were they, which happens regardless if you have a book bundle or not, or were these challenges because of the book bundle? So we're making sure we also identify when there are challenges. Is it attributed to the book bundle, or is it attributed to just, hey, the publisher changes the edition 2 weeks before the start of the semester? That's going to happen whether you have it or not. So those are things we want to put it into context. So we were able to fix those areas, continue refinement of communications and opt-out processes. As I mentioned, our book bundle website with our FAQs is a live and breathing website. We continuously update it as well. For example, when we talk about the opt-out process, one question we have on there is, how do I know whether to opt out of the program or not? So we say each student is responsible for determining that process. While generally offers significant savings, certain circumstances may make opt-out advantageous. For example, if they are enrolled in a majority of their courses that are low cost or no cost materials, and may be a benefit to opt out. Likewise, if a student prefers to purchase rather than rent their textbooks, all right, that might be a scenario in which they wish to opt out of the process. So making sure we're providing to give more context for the students about the process is what we're really working on too. The feasibility of offering physical textbook options along digital, that's something we're having and engaging in conversations with Barnes and Noble. And as I mentioned, when I report back to you in the summer after the spring semester, we'll include the benchmark data that we're going over today, and then also the data over in spring of 25, so we can identify areas, did we make improvements in certain areas or not, and why. And so overall, I would say that the launch was overall successful, but there were areas and challenges that we need to have that are a work in progress. As in, when you do something that impacts 100% of the students or 100% of your books, you want to make sure that you're always going to have some broken links, but you want to minimize those areas, and in particular, you want to minimize any type of unforced errors that you do have. And we're going to continue to get continuous feedback, and then also engaging with obviously Barnes and Noble. We're in constant communication with them when we do identify challenges, and we ask for them to report back in a timely manner on the fixes to those challenges. In fact, I was reading one earlier this week. We had a unique scenario with one course that we were able to get that resolved within 24 to 48 hours. So it's good to make sure we're continuously on top of that. So with that, I will just pause here and then be open to any questions, and I'll stop sharing.
Mr. Chairman.
Regent Balducci.
Thank you. Yes, I don't mean to belabor this, but when this initial program came forward, I was not particularly for it. I see that you said it's somewhat successful so far, David. I was for the opt-in as opposed to the opt-out, because from what I saw, I think you had 62% of the people were quote unquote uninformed as to what options they had. Is that what I saw before?
No, it was 62% were satisfied.
Yeah.
62.
Yeah. So so 67% of the students felt adequately informed about the program. So about 2/3 felt adequately informed, and
just under 9% opted out.
26% had a problem with the opt-in function, right? Opt-out.
Yep.
26%, and 32% had challenges with the navigation of the technology. And I think that's the group we need to really look into.
And Barnes and Noble,
exactly.
and Barnes and Noble, of course, is the beneficiary of all of this. We get funds for this though, too, don't we, if this program is successful?
The college? No.
There is actually in the agreement, obviously there is actually the revenue share component of it, and the revenue share existed before and also with this one as well.
But this program, you pay up front and you get your materials on time. Isn't that part of the sale pitch on this? That you don't have to wait getting your book or your books or materials 3 or 4 weeks into the semester, correct?
Yeah, correct. Because this appears as a course materials fee, one, financial aid is able to cover this, and two, because we knew we have this process that as soon as the student registers, and then obviously a certain amount of time before the semester begins, the materials actually will then show up within Blackboard itself, as opposed to beforehand. If let's say you took a math class that had a physical textbook and a software. You were on your own to go ahead and purchase that, and then either from Barnes & Noble or somewhere else, and then you'd have to get a digital access code, you'd have to download that access code, and then log into the system separately, where in this one, it was a single sign-on connected into the Blackboard shell.
I'm glad you said that financial aid also covers this program. But, you only have one person singing a song. If I have you long enough, I could probably convince you to make apple pie out of peaches. And because they're the only person sending the program in, there are no other options. This is it.
Again,
well,
good. I'm sorry.
Students have several other options. They can opt out of this and search for the books on their own.
They can opt out, but it's not the other way around.
No, and that's on the publisher side. We don't have the option to make it that way. The publishers are not selling this as an opt-in. They're only offering it as an opt-out.
That's
No,
what-
there's two pieces of data I want you to walk away understanding. First of all, the response rate was not impressive. So, I mean, I don't want to hammer away at these numbers when, David, I don't know, what was the response rate?
5.8%.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Now that says to me, there were a few students that were unhappy. By and large, nobody gave a hoot. They didn't respond. They didn't have anything to yell about. But the second thing you should know is the percentage of Charter Oak courses, particularly beginning courses, that are low cost, no cost textbooks. And those students have no need for this program. Their textbook costs are minimal. David, do you have a percentage on how many of our courses are low cost, no cost now? I have a number in my head, but it could be wrong.
Yeah, so we have the OER one, which is instead of low cost, no cost. The OER we're around 7-8% of our courses. The reason for that is because as an online institution, obviously we're more heavily dependent on software in addition to the textbooks, and so that's why we tend to have a lower adoption rate of open educational resources because of that process. So. But yeah, and then our low cost materials, we're at the area where honestly it would probably be around the $30-$40 range, whereas in this component with the book bundle fee, the $18.75 per credit works out to what, like $53.25 per course when it comes to it. So yeah, there are some scenarios, and that's why we try to guide the students as best as possible. Were to say, based upon your life circumstance, and one of the things we do want to take a look at, especially if we do get a better response rate. So just for statistical purposes, it's like a plus minus 9%. But we want to, if we do as we get larger amounts of data over multiple semesters, and as we get hopefully better response rates, I do want to take a look at, for example, when it comes to the physical textbook, one where they say they'd like more physical textbook options. Is that more prevalent in my graduate programs versus my undergraduate programs or in certain majors? If so, we want to utilize that data to help maybe inform also our instructors about what should, if our students are preferring physical textbooks for these courses versus others, we should probably take that into consideration as we look at adoptions of what materials we do have. So I'm hoping that if we can get some of this data, it can help us make information of institutional decisions as well as what we do want. Likewise, again, the growing proportion of our students who are preferring the digital textbook every single year more and more. That's also good for our faculty to know if they have a physical textbook, they're like, well, actually your students want digital. So should we consider in the next edition that you consider a digital textbook option?
Regent Cassiamino.
When you come back in the summer with additional information, I think given the N that we're talking about is a small N to begin with, and you have 5% of a really small N, I think that perspective would be helpful. So I would ask that you add that to the slides. The other part, as I think about some of the larger institutions, I think it would be helpful to appreciate the level of effort that your teammates are expending to do and implement this program, and how that has changed once it's up and running, so that if one of the other institutions desire to contemplate the program, they can appreciate, what that cost benefit might be for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Cassiamino. I mean, to level set. Go ahead, David.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a great comment, and we are happy to do that, because as with anything, whenever you do something this large of an initiative, to be in full disclosure, yeah, there was an increase in workload up front with certain members of our staff, also our advisors, especially first time through, as we had a couple of links and delays that, there were some increases on workload on our advisor side for the first 3 days of that semester as we were working through. So those are things that as we work through this process, I think it's also important to say, here are the lessons learned, here are the things that broke for us, and here are the things that maybe we can help prevent not breaking for you if another institution does wish to move forward.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Regent Sanchez.
I just have one quick question.
Get to the mic closer.
Do you think that due to the nature of Charter Oak being an online institution, students might had an easier time accessing the opting out option? Because I feel like, you know, as a student, when you go into an online institution, you kind of, it's understood that like, hey, like go check your emails, make sure that the information that you're keeping track of that. And the only concern that I have is that students might completely miss that information, and because Barnes and Nobles will be the only publisher that would force a lot of professors just to offer courses only with those resources, right? So that I'm not sure if So do you think students in Charter Oak had, because it's an online institution, they had an easier time accessing?
That's a great question, and I would say that we really approached it. We do actually have data about preferred ways in which students are informed over our institution, and you know it's about 80% of our students still prefer that their way that we communicate with them is through email. Text messaging is actually second, but it's actually much farther down the list than what we would think. And what we wanted to make sure we did when, for example, when there was that automated email after they registered for their courses about the book bundle and the opt-out option, we wanted to make sure that they didn't get an email that was like 15 pages long. We wanted to have an email that was actually very succinct and linked to the book bundle page that actually talked about the opt-out process. So I'd say yes, we do have data that shows that our students do prefer the email component. So it might be a little bit easier on that side. I don't have the benchmark data versus some others. But there may be some inherent, pros that we do have with this process.
Thank you, David. I mean, the purpose of this presentation was for information only. Chair Balducci made a great point. There was a lot of concern when this initially came up to presentation to the board was in our last June meeting. You're reporting back to us on how things are going and what's working well and what needs to be improved is very helpful for us to watch this. Clearly, this is not ready for prime time nor under consideration, but it's up to the institutional presidents to make this decision, not the board. So you do what's right for your students and your faculty. With that, I'd like to now ask the Secretary of the Board, Pam Helene, to manage public comment portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair Gray. We have 8 members of the student body and the faculty and public who would like to speak today. Our first presenter is a student. Her name is Eva Hurst. She is a Southern student. She's participating virtually. Eva, are you still with us? And can you check your audio and video for me?
Let's see. Hello.
We hear you and we can see you. Do you have your 3 minutes ready?
I do.
You need to turn off your YouTube link if you're watching that concurrently.
I don't believe I am. Is it okay on your end?
It is. Thank you. You ready with your 3 minutes?
I am. Thank you.
You may begin.
Good morning or good afternoon almost. And thank you for letting me speak to you, members of the Board of Regents. I am so thankful to have an opportunity to speak on my experience at my Connecticut State School. I transferred to Southern Connecticut State halfway through my education, and I will be graduating in May. And I've had such an impactful higher education experience where I had no idea I was going to care so much about how important a second and higher education was after high school and preliminary education. And I began at a private institution that was way for me to maintain going to. So I had to leave and interrupt my experience, which was heartbreaking after falling in love with a rigorous course load that was preparing me professionally, that I was really committed to. I was heartbroken and I had to come back to an in-state school, and Southern was offering something very much comparable to what I was looking for. So I was thrilled. And on top of it, it was a much more affordable situation. And I was able to combine the abilities that I do have living at home, like having transportation and opportunities to work outside of school. I was able to do that and go to school and get the rigorous preparation I was looking for. And I'm studying communications, which has been an invaluable program at Southern, but more so, the program aside, the professors and advising community at Southern has been invaluable and absolutely remarkable. They are a huge piece of the glue between the students and the institution, the structure to the institution, whether it be advising or guidance to also helping us learn about the resources that are on campus that would be helpful for us to use. They were absolutely invaluable in connecting us to that structure and being the voice and helping us understand really our role and how we can use the institution. So my experience has been so brilliant, primarily because of how much help I was able to get from Southern resources, the transfer department, but specifically the professors helped me get through all of this, and the rigorous structure was invaluable. And we just need to keep the opportunities that we already have and the resources we already have. We need to at least maintain that. And we need to keep expanding in the ways we can to help aid with the cost of living for students. Otherwise, it's been awesome. Thank you. I'm all set.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Andrew Wetmore. He's from CT State Northwestern, and he's Director of Student Activities. There he is. Could you check your audio for me, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
And we can. You have your 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good morning, board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Andrew Wetmore. I'm the Director of Student Activities here at CT State Northwestern. Student services are not extras. They are essential and cannot continue to be undervalued here at CT State. Academic advising, mental health counseling, student activities, career services, food pantries, disability supports. These are not luxuries. They are expectations of today's students. These staff in these offices are often lifelines for community college students to keep them on track and enrolled. If we do not adequately provide these services on each campus equitably, students are going to leave our system for private, online, or out-of-state institutions or drop out altogether. Earlier, you said you're committed to fixing your retention and graduation rates. We are your retention and graduation rates. I can speak to myself. 83% of my student senators during my 8 years here have graduated or transferred to their 4-year school of choice, and I don't get to pick my students. It's not an accident. Investing in student services is not just a moral responsibility, it's a smart strategy. Retention and graduation rates improve when students have access to the support services that they need. The concern is that CT State not only lacks adequate staffing for those areas, but are also not funding the departments beyond just having staff. Our staffing and funding levels are inconsistent in between campuses and in some cases non-existent. Continuing to underfund and understaff these departments sends a message that we are on our own and that you do not value neither the staff in the departments, the staff nor the departments. Students should and do expect the same access to resources on each campus, regardless of its size, and that takes staff and funding. We have become more inequitable since the merger because of this, or perhaps it's become more aware. Part of the problem is that what our departments provide is not easily quantified into spreadsheets. As a WestCon alum and as a former trustee myself for the Connecticut State University system when that was in existence, I can testify that what made me successful as a student and then later as an adult is what I had access to outside of the classroom. It was the Western student activity staff that supported me the most when I need it, and what they provided is not found in their job description. In the area of student activities, we provide a critical role connecting students to our campus community. What once came naturally on college campuses, engagement and socialization, has to be manufactured now in order for students to succeed. I urge you to prioritize funding for student services at all campuses and hold the college and campus administration accountable for upholding the mission of our institution as a place where education inside and outside of the classroom is truly equitable and empowering for students, regardless of what campus they study or work on. I appreciate your time and for what you do for our system. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Andrew Smith, a English professor here at Southern. If he could join us at the podium and here, check the mic. Thank you. You may begin.
Greetings. Thank you for hearing my remarks. My name is Andrew Smith. I'm a professor of English at Southern and a proud member of the CSU AAUP. I teach secondary English education courses and supervise student fieldwork through which we train future generations of English teachers on the ground and in schools. I'm speaking today in opposition to Charter Oak State College's proposal to develop a school of education to offer fully online preparation of future teachers. In a scaling task force report from last December, Charter Oak leaders write that they will, quote, create a school of education that expands on success as a premier online educator for early childhood education, expanding to other education programs to address Connecticut's critical need for skilled educators in a sought-after and flexible format that caters to working residents, end quote. It is a laudable goal to offer opportunities for currently working residents with a range of backgrounds, experience, talents, and motivations to prepare for the teaching profession, especially as we see significant shortage areas in K-12 education. We need well-prepared and dedicated teachers. The difficulty with keeping excellent teachers in Connecticut's classrooms is not just recruitment and access, however, it's also in retention. Teachers who are not prepared through rigorous on-ground education programs that emphasize experiential learning and regular assessment of knowledge, skills, and dispositions are less likely to remain in the profession. The writers of the Scaling Task Force report offer apprenticeship pathways for paraprofessionals and partnerships with school districts to recruit future teachers, valuable outreach that can strengthen and diversify our teacher workforce. I am concerned, though, that a focus on convenience and rapid expansion of what's labeled the education pipeline will seriously undercut in-depth preparation and knowledge in the rapidly changing field offered by programs such as those at Southern, where we have established long-term and well-grounded relationships with area schools and districts and can guide students at all levels to solid decisions about their futures in education. The Scaling Task Force report highlights that, quote, new programs proposed to the School of Ed focus on addressing workforce shortages and offering programs that are not currently available in a fully online asynchronous format, end quote. Much preparation for educational careers can be done online or in hybrid formats, but it's a direct on-ground experience in university classrooms and especially in fieldwork that allows for critical development in future teachers as part of an educational community. And I'm by saying, as I visited an area school just this week, the principal stepped out to talk to me, and she was a student of mine from 20 years ago. That's the kind of networking that we're proud of, where we say people have stayed in our programs, and we're happy to keep doing so in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Carrie Swanson, who is the Southern AAUP president. She's joining us here in person. Ready?
Ready.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chancellor Chang, Chairman Gray, members of the Board of Regents. I'm Carrie Swanson. I'm Associate Librarian, Acquisitions and Collection Development Coordinator at the Bewley Library here at Southern. I appreciate having this opportunity to address the board during public comments here on our campus in this ballroom, where just a few days ago we were celebrating staff with service longer than 25 years, our recent recognition as an R2 Carnegie designation, as well as recognition that we're a top producing institution for the Fulbright U.S. Scholars Program. We have a lot to celebrate and be proud of at Southern, including the importance of our community and the relationships we foster in the work that we do to support our students. We appreciate when labor and management can work together for the benefit of our students to advocate for funding for CSCU. But it is not only what we do behind the velvet ropes at the Capitol that benefits our students. When you are euphemistically calling mitigation strategies what you are euphemistically calling mitigation strategies have major and far-reaching impacts on the education we provide. Previous rounds of mitigation have already reduced the number of full and part-time faculty, have reduced reassigned time for compensation for non-teaching work, reduced the number of staff, and have left employees with unreasonable workloads and decreased morale. Public higher education is a public good. Most of us are here because we are committed to that good and to the mission of our institutions. But our students are not widgets and we are not machines. We did not achieve the things we celebrated in this ballroom this week by happenstance or luck. We achieved them through the hard work and commitment of faculty, staff, and administrators here working together. So, my question to you today is, what is our legislative ask now? Now that everyone is aware that CSCU has over $500 million in reserves, and the legislature is likely to question why we are asking for increased funding, how will we work together to ensure that our institutions are properly funded? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is also, he is virtual Randall Ward as Director of Student Activities at CT State Capitol. Randall, we see you. Can you check your audio for me, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, you may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the Board of Regents. My name again is Randall Ward, and I serve as the Director of Student Activities here at CT State Capitol. And I appreciate the opportunity to address you regarding an important issue that affects tens of thousands of our students who rely on student engagement programs across our campuses. Student activities directors are critical to the success and well-being of our students. We coordinate leadership development programs, oversee student government and clubs, plan events that enrich campus life, and provide students with opportunities for personal and professional growth. Our responsibilities often require us to work well beyond our traditional hours to support student events, mentor student leaders, and ensure compliance with institutional policies and much more. Our work, in short, is essential to student retention and success, issues that this board has identified as a priority. However, despite the vital role we play as student activity directors, we are the only directors within CT State who are paid at a lower rate than our other directors. The problem is not only or even primarily about how this inequitable pay structure affects myself and my colleagues. It's about our personal and institutional relationships with our students. Undervaluing our labor makes it difficult to recruit and retain qualified professionals, which in turn makes it difficult to recruit and retain students. I urge this board to rectify this inequity, and our students deserve fully engaged, experienced professionals who can dedicate themselves to their work without financial insecurity or the risk of leaving for better paying opportunities elsewhere. So parity with our peers will ensure that students will receive the highest quality support and programming possible. So if you truly wish to demonstrate your commitment to the students' success, I urge you to adjust the pay structure for the CT State Student Activities Directors who dedicate our careers to making the college experiencing more engaging, inclusive, and vibrant. Thank you so much for your time and consideration this morning.
Thank you. Our next presenter is also virtual. Louise Williams is AAUP president at Central Connecticut State University. Louise, we can see you. Can you check your audio?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can. You ready?
Yep.
Thank you. You
So
may begin.
as you know, I'm president of CSU AUP. I want to begin first by thanking all the university and college presidents and Chancellor Chang for submitting testimony to the Higher Education Committee in support of our bill HB 6885 to expand the PACT program to the CSUs. But I also want to express my deep disappointment at the recent CT Mirror article about CSCU reserves. It appears that once again there is a lack of transparency and clarity from our management, as well as a failure to provide a really serious vision for the future of our system. The fact that state legislators are confused about how many reserves you have and are accusing you of hoarding money while you beg for state funding is a real problem. And we have heard this from other legislators than the ones quoted in the article. Even ex officio Regent Casamento at your last meeting appeared confused about why this year's reserves were so high. This means that you have failed to explain the needs and problems of our system in a way that is clear and understandable to those who fund us. And it is embarrassing for us at CSU AUP. We worked very hard last year and again this year asking hundreds of legislators for more funding. We have deflected all questions about your inconsistent budget asks and questionable spending. We have consciously not made any public statements criticizing the system, office, or board. But when news items like this appear, we feel like fools, naive dupes, tripped by managers who are hiding something. This is bad enough for our relationship with legislators, but even worse for our members. They feel the cuts of your previous mitigation plans. They will hear of plans to cut the CSUs between 40 million and 50 million more in the next 2 years. They also will have learned of plans from this board that will create competition within our system, for example, from Charter Oak. And they now hear that you're sitting on piles of money. They won't care whether this is true or not. They will only feel the slap in the face, and it will make already bad morale worse. This has to stop. So I'm asking you now to do 3 things. First, give us clear, detailed, and consistent explanation for why we need more money and what is going on with the reserves, and do this as soon as possible. Second, develop a real plan for the future that does not pit one part of our system against the other. That is about quality education that focuses on those things really proven in the scholarship to improve student retention. This should include even more support for the expansion of the PACT program to the CSUs. We have heard recently that there are moves to take it out of the appropriations budget or to give that money to other schools. I hope that everyone in this room talks to your legislatures and makes sure that it is included. We would also like to see a promise to use reserves for the classroom, for more faculty, and for robust program and course offerings. Finally, we want to see you work to find a better funding model for our system and really advocate for it in the legislature. If you do these things, we may be able to continue to work with you rather than fight you, because we believe that they will help our students, our members, and our schools. If not, I can't make any promises, especially in a contract negotiation year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is John O'Connor, Professor of Sociology at Central Connecticut State University. John, can you get your camera on, check your audio?
Actually, Pam, I would like to allocate my 3 minutes to Lisa Lancour, who's the chair of computer science at Southern, and she's in the room with you all. Thank you, Pam.
Chair has given that okay. You may come to the podium. Thank you, John.
John, I was looking forward to your input.
Next time, Chair.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you soon, actually.
Thank you,
John.
Lisa, could you give us your last name again, please?
Yeah, Lisa Lancor, Lancor.
Thank you. Do you have your 3 minutes?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Lisa Lancor, and I serve as the chairperson of the Computer Science Department here at Southern. I'm speaking not just to raise concern about a single program, but about a pattern, a process that has left faculty across the system feeling unheard, disregarded, and disheartened. For over 2 years, faculty from the math and computer science departments here collaborated and designed a master's of science a master's in data science that was workforce aligned, academically rigorous, included a 4+1 from our BS in data science, and was to be delivered by our existing faculty experts. It was interdisciplinary, innovative, and required no additional cost to the system. We answered every request from the Academic and Student Affairs Committee that was asked of us over multiple submissions, resulting in a ridiculously lengthy process. We clearly demonstrated how our program was significantly different from those offered at our sister institutions. We proved student demand, industry demand, and when asked for proof of enrollment, we even included a signed MOU from an international partner committed to sending students to our program every year. At every step, we were told, submit this and you'll be on the next agenda. But that agenda placement never came. Instead, we were eventually told to end the pursuit of the program on the grounds of duplication. By the way, we have the only Bachelor of Science in Data Science, and students were waiting for the accelerated pathway to be approved so they could flow right into it. But we lost them. So, duplication. Since our program was denied, this board has approved new programs and even entire schools that duplicate existing offerings. Take, for example, the school at Charter Oak that will stand up teacher certification programs seemingly designed to poach students from our universities. So apparently, duplication only matters when faculty initiate the idea. The message to faculty is clear. Our expertise, our effort, our insight are only welcome when they align with top-down directives. This isn't just about the past. It's about the future, too. Connecticut's tech industry is growing, and we need new curricula in areas such as the Internet of Things and quantum computing, fields where our faculty have the knowledge and the drive to lead. But the will to innovate is fading. Faculty now ask me, Lisa, what's the point? Even if we build something extraordinary, the BOR won't support it. And that's the cost you don't see on paper. The erosion of trust, the loss of morale, and the stifling of academic momentum. We're not short on ideas, but we are short in faith in the process. Faculty are the ones in the classrooms, in the labs, and in the field with students. We are closest to the industries and innovations shaping our economy. We are ready to do the work, but we need a system that respects the work we do and doesn't throw roadblocks when we build academically sound and needed programs.
Dr. Lancourt, can you wrap up, please?
Yes, we're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for a nimble process that honors the values of shared governance, transparency, and mutual respect. Without that, the cost to our students and our institutions will be far greater than the denial of any one program.
Thank you, Dr. Lancourt. And our final presenter is Nicholas Simon. He is from Eastern, a sociology professor. He's joining us in person. You may begin.
Chancellor Chang, member of the Board of Regents, President Klonowski, and Provost Ferreira, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm really happy to be with you today. And a year ago, during the BOR meeting in Hartford, the Regent rejected the automatic textbook billing policy known as equitable access, which was proposed for implementation in the fall 2024. Despite this, Charter Oak chose to implement the policy, and today we heard great thing from Charter Oak. Amazing result. Only 9% of students opted out. Wow, it really seems too good to be true. I'm really looking forward reading the report. I'm really interested to know who wrote the report, the methodology used. And if I say so, it's because last year, my colleague, Dr. Marianne Clifford, and I conducted research on how much students at Eastern Connecticut State University spent on course material. Our finding, which we published, were extremely interesting. Basically, they indicated that students who participate in our survey would have paid less than if he had an automatic textbook billing model. They also expressed strong opposition to this policy. This year, Eastern is seeking a new contract, and all three proposals received include automatic textbook billing. In response, a new petition against the policy has already gathered 830 signatures. Additionally, the Association of Department Chair has expressed its opposition, and both Eastern AUP chapter and Faculty Senate have passed resolution against automatic textbook billing. Eastern is not Charter Oak, and Charter Oak is not Eastern. We serve different student population at different institutions, different demographic in terms of age, familial status, economic and financial resources, but also differences in terms of the use of textbook. If it works for Charter Oak students, great. Dear President of the 4 state universities, if you are looking for the new contract bookstore, I would like to invite you to explore what is the percentage of use of textbook? Spring 2024, 70% of courses at Eastern were not using course material. Ask the students how much they are paying to access their course material. Ask students what they are thinking. And please take into consideration the digital policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Chair Gray, that concludes our public comment portion of the meeting.
Mr. Chang, you want to respond?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair Gray. So I just wanted to say thanks as always to all of our folks online and in person who take the time to come and speak in public forum to the board and to me and my office, all of our presidents. It's really important part of the process. We are definitely listening, taking lots of notes, and we'll respond, as needed to some of the subjects that have been brought up. I did want to respond specifically to a couple items just very quickly. First and foremost to Dr. Louise Williams. I really appreciate your leadership, the leadership and advocacy of the AUP. I agree with the large majority of the points that you made. We have to continue to do a better job, right? If people feel confused about our reserves, about our finances, it's our job to just improve on that. And we have had that discussion, a lot recently with multiple groups internally and externally as well. So you have my commitment that we will continue to do whatever we can to earn your trust in that space, because we do not take AUP's advocacy and hard work outside of the classroom for granted. I also wanted to just say to Dr. Lankor regarding the data science program, recognize the hard work as a faculty member in a past life who was a department chair. I know how hard faculty work to create these programs. It is really, really challenging, especially given the teaching loads that we have. And so I really appreciate that thought. When it comes to process, at least, in the old days when I did it, it starts at the department, it goes to a dean, it goes to a provost, and then eventually it goes to a provost council. I think it still works that way. I'll tell you that our process when I first arrived was definitely a little all over the place. We've worked really hard to try to streamline it and make it tighter and better. I think it's gotten better. It's still not quite where it needs to be. So again, you have my commitment, and with the guidance and with the input of our institutional presidents as well. They are not afraid to give me an earful about things they're not satisfied with, and they have. And we're talking about it and we're working through it. But that being said, I think we have to be mindful of the fact that there is a significant role that the departments play, obviously, but your comments did not mention the dean at your institution. It did not mention the provost at your institution. And I think we can also shed a little bit of light, and I'll do so at a macro level. I might ask Dr. Diamond in academic affairs on my team to chime in a little as well, because she's been engaged in this process. It is our job to ultimately convene a provost council, and the provosts that represent each of their institutions have a significant amount of input into what does and does not move forward, so that it doesn't land in the lap of the chancellor or in the lap of the board. The board are not comprised of academicians and experts in hundreds of different areas. It should not land in the lap of the board, nor should it land in the office of the chancellor to be a final backstop. And our provosts have done a really great job of being the experts that have been vetting on behalf of the system. And so maybe, Dr. Diamond, you want to just add a little bit of detail or color to this, because we know that the faculty have worked very hard on this. We know this is a key area. But when we look at the program that was launched at Eastern a few years back, which does not have a significant amount of enrollment. And then we look at the program that was launched at Central, which has a decent amount of enrollment. We have to ask the question of demand. And even though a significant amount of work has come into developing these programs, there is another level of scrutiny that is applied by the provost and as well as the system office. So, Dr. Diamond.
Thank you for the chance to speak on this. I'd like to say that I am very fortunate to work with incredibly responsive chief academic affairs officers at all of our institutions who are very open and very collegial about us shepherding through the academic vision from each of the campuses. I applaud you for bringing this program in particular to light, because you are absolutely correct in saying that the opportunity for cross-disciplinary collaboration is something that we fiercely advocate for. We want to encourage 3+2 and 4+1. These are programs that advance our students to multiple degree completion. These are the types of proposals that we want to see come across our desks. This program in particular had a really, really rocky history, one that I inherited. There is so much that goes into the sausage making that is the process of academic affairs. I do want to point out in particular that this program did get passed in February as a below threshold new concentration. It is not what the faculty put forward first, and which took many, many stalls and cross communication back and forth. It was not the original purpose that they wanted it to be approved, but it was approved as a new concentration. Academic affairs is a constant communication between levels. There are so many levels. We are currently working with our chief academic affairs officers to re-envision how academic programs are approved and why we have the level of bureaucracy that we do. I myself, as a card-carrying adjunct faculty member, know from both sides of this how you are applauded for your vision, and then it takes forever for those visions to hit paper. We need to be more efficient, and I will definitely own that. And I applaud the work that our chief academic affairs officers are getting ready to do with me collaboratively to figure out how to make this better. Is it an answer for the angst and the time of the faculty spent on really their passion on getting a program forward? No. But I can promise you that we are aware of the timeline and that there were a lot of details that went into this program, which I would be more than happy to sit down and talk with you further. I've been working on this program for over 2 years.
Thank you. I would just like to say, public comment sometimes in this meeting is you get a lot of different things, but I will say all the subjects. I'm looking at Andrew, Carrie, and Lisa, and Louise, and Ava, and other presenters, Nicholas. I think all of the subjects were really relevant. So as a board, I really appreciate the places you point us where value needs to be created, whether it's around speed, whether it's around transparency. So thank you. I usually don't thank people for public comment, but I appreciate it really sincerely. So thank you. We're going to move on now to approve our February 27th BOR board minutes. I'd like a second.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the board minutes from February 22nd?
Aye.
7th?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Next is our approval of the consent agenda. I'd like to call a motion to approve the
So
consent
moved.
agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. I'm going to move now to the committee reports. Committee Chair Ira Bloom, I believe you have a brief report on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee.
I think it's just got briefer. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee met on March 7th. Present in addition to the committee chair were Regents Juanita James and Rick Porth and Professor Kalina Sasenka. We thank the board members for their approval of the consent agenda. Chair Gay, I would like to highlight several items of interest regarding the ASA items just approved, and also emphasize several significant accomplishments and goals in the realm of academic affairs. These accomplishments are only possible with the extensive and collaborative work of the presidents, provosts, their deans, and the faculty in support of our students and our students' aspirations. As already discussed by Dr. Blanchard, enrollment is up across the board. One point I would like to emphasize, part of this is personal, is the percentage of first-generation students we are serving. I myself was a first-generation student at a public college in a nearby state in 1802 or somewhere right back there. It is very important. All of my first cousins, of which there were a considerable number, were first-generation college students. This has made an enormous difference in everybody's lives. So I think that is a point well worth emphasizing. We have two new programs that were approved today related to data analysis and cybersecurity, both high demand fields. One is the MS in cybersecurity at Central, and the other is the MS in user research and user interface, and of all places, at Southern. A common theme seen regularly on new program submissions is that these programs are designed with Connecticut partnerships and workforce development in mind, and where appropriate, they look to the future by incorporating AI components. This field is changing, as the speaker mentioned. Almost every, I used to say, I taught cyber law for quite a few years. If I took a nap, something had happened. This field moves with enormous speed. I would also like to comment, if I may add a comment on the Carnegie A2 designation for Southern. In the academic world, this is an enormous accomplishment. There are 4,000 universities in the United States, plus or minus a few. There are 187 R1s, Research 1 classifications. And in Connecticut, it's only Yale and UConn that have R1 classifications. There are 187 R1s across the country. R2, we are among only 139 R2 designations, and the only one in Connecticut. This is, again, an enormous accomplishment that the leadership and faculty at Southern should take great credit for. In addition, Southern had its doctorate in business administration, which was approved by the regents in the past several months, also approved for accreditation within the overall AACSB accreditation that Southern has for its business programs. This is the American Association of Collegiate Schools of Business. Again, a very prestigious system of accreditation that relatively few business schools in the country have achieved. So, and now the doctoral program is folded within this overall AACSB accreditation at Southern. And also on a roll, Southern, as mentioned, earned recognition as a leading Fulbright scholarship producer. I was involved in such a designation at a different institution in my former life. The Fulbright program named after Senator J. William Fulbright, the one longtime chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, back when I was young, is one of the most recognized and prestigious international exchange programs in the world, supported by the U.S. government and partner nations for many years. Fulbrights do not happen by accident. They require commitment by faculty and staff working with the student applicants. These are highly competitive achievements, and they require intensive work with the student applicants for the students to achieve success. What will happen with the overall Fulbright program in the current environment, it's hard to know, but this is really another one of the Southern achievements. I would also want to point out that among the honorary degrees awarded today, and I'm sure people saw this in the package, is one to Joanne Ryan, the former Board of Regents chair. So we recognize that formally on the minutes. On the student affairs front, the ASA committee is continuing to address the availability of a range of student services that support student retention and academic performance, some of which we have already talked about, including food insecurity report, which was presented today and had initially been presented to the ASA committee at its March meeting. The ASA committee, working with CSCU senior system staff, in consultation with the leadership of the Student Advisory Council, is continuing to focus upon essential student support services, including, as mentioned before, mental health as a priority, tutoring, libraries hours, health and disability services, digital infrastructure, which supports a lot of what the students do and which varies among the campuses, billing systems, student activities, which was discussed earlier, and the availability of emergency funds for students, as well as the restoration of student services at CT State. The pandemic has had an enormous impact on our students. I saw this in my former life personally with classes that in the honors college and in the university where I was teaching. Everything changed after the pandemic. Sports services that we did not think necessary before have become essential for a variety of reasons. And the impact on the students, and the students themselves have said this to me, no matter where they were in their careers, whether they were in high school or college or even in elementary school at that time, the remote learning has had a detrimental effect upon students across the board that was forced into by the pandemic. So these support services are essential. And further work on transfer alignment policy and course availability, including scheduling and modality, also will be undertaken through the committee. We have worked, as I think we've discussed before, transfer alignment policy for general education is in place. The next step is transfer alignment policy in some of the majors. Make it easier for students to move from CT State to the universities. This is not going to come without a bit of a struggle. I was involved in this kind of process again in a former life, and it's not always agreed and it's not always received with wild enthusiasm, but it's essential that we continue to make progress in this area. So, particularly in key majors. As Elisa mentioned, the Student Advisory Council is now finalizing its student survey, which will contribute to what we know about student needs and desires. There is a need in this space, challenges include the need to publicize available services more aggressively on some of the campuses and to develop external funding sources, as well as the impact of potential federal funding cutbacks. I would urge people to read, there were several articles in this morning's edition of the New York Times, which talk about the potential impact of the actions taken at the federal level upon colleges and universities across the country. And, from the academic standpoint, I have not seen this kind of potential involvement by the federal government at the course level, literally since the McCarthy era. This is going to be a very challenging period for all of us, for the board, for the leadership on the campuses, for the faculty, for all of us involved. So stay tuned, I guess is the only thing I can say. Chair Gay, thank you for the opportunity to present the report.
Thank you, Regent Bloom. As always, your perspectives are really important to keep us informed. Audit Committee Chair Elise Wright, you have no report this month, correct? Thank you so kindly. Finance and Infrastructure Committee Chair Rich Balducci has no report this month, correct?
Correct.
Thank you so kindly, Regent Balducci. Committee Chair Juanita James is not with us today, but I do believe that Regent Rick Porth has a brief report from the Governance and Nominations Committee. Regent Port.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make this quick. I do this report, as you just said, for Juanita James, who's been a great leader in our effort on this new committee to look at the way we work together and advance student success. And so we've been doing this work for a few months now, but we have plenty more to do going forward. And here's a quick report on our last meeting, which was March 7th of this month. The committee discussed which regions should be involved in the presidential searches for Western and Southern. And our recommendation is that for future presidential service searches, the BOR chair, the vice chair, the chair of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee, and the chair of the HR Committee be involved in the semifinal round, providing input into the candidates who are the finalists, and then also to participate in final round interviews. We also recommend that the full board of regents be invited to meet finalist round candidates. And here there's an action item connected with this recommendation. Our committee, the Governance and Nominations Committee, requests that the presidential search process be updated to reflect these recommendations. Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to do that right now or you want me to complete my report.
Complete your report, please.
Sure, of course. The second item discussed at our recent meeting was a very comprehensive region onboarding process. This is consistent with a statute that was passed by the state legislature and signed into law. I'm happy to answer questions about some of the details of this onboarding process, but it is attached to the minutes from that meeting, which is in your board packet. But it's very comprehensive and it covers a lot of the issues, frankly, that have come up in this meeting and recent meetings. One thing I will say is we on the committee thank the full board for its approval of the document describing roles and responsibility for Board of Regent members. And we put that together over a period of time with some input from the board and others. But importantly, we got really good help from Terry McTaggart and the Association of Governing Boards for Higher Education. And that's been formally approved. And again, it's in your packet. Number three, we're in the process in our committee of reviewing our bylaws to recommend updates and revisions to the Board of Regents. And that'll happen in the April or May meeting. And this will involve various updates. It's been a little while, including a list of the standing committees to bring that up to date, and also the process that the board should have for emergency action as necessary. Number four, the Governance and Nominations Committee had a discussion regarding the parameters of executive sessions of the board and what topics are or not appropriate. And please be assured that we will develop these recommendations with legal and expert help so that that when we do our executive sessions, they're consistent with freedom of information and open public meeting laws and other requirements. It's our intention to do this in that way. There was an agreement that the board agenda should include a standing item for executive sessions for each board meeting, which Chairman Gui addressed at the very beginning of this meeting. And then finally, some of the topics this committee will discuss in the near future, and these are topics that have come up in recent meetings of the full board as well, is how we can make sure to have a process for Board of Regent communications to external constituents in particular, but in general, when issues come up, such as we heard from speakers today, and that's an important part, I think, of us being able to demonstrate our our involvement and our serious approach to these issues. And then also, finally, to work on recommendations for or nominations for inclusion on the Board of Regents for future appointments. I'll stop there, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and hopefully we could have an action on the first item, which is the Board of Regents involvement in the search process.
Yeah, my action to you, Regent Porth, is to bring that to the HR committee. They should follow up on that personnel matter on behalf of the board, then bring it to the board.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Committee Chair Jappanen, there's no report from the HR and Administration Committee, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you so kindly. Regent Yang, does the Technology Committee have a report this month?
Nope.
Thank you so kindly, Regent Yang. May I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to thank everyone for a very spirited and informative meeting. Thank you.
Hold please, and we'll stop our live stream.